Good evening viewers, welcome to another video. I'm Maz and today marks the first year ownership of my XF. 1st of July 2019. That was the day I upgraded my first car, a 2012 Chevrolet Spark, to this, a 2017 Jaguar XF X260. And in this video I'm going to share my experiences with this car, the good bits, the bad bits, and things I have done to this car and things that I plan to do with it in the future. This car was purchased from a dealership in Kent and I paid £16,500 for this car. It was 2 years old at the time and it was paid outright. Now the dealership I purchased this car from pretty much did give me a good deal on it, especially for a car that still has its warranty, and even during the making of this video is still being made today. But there were a few odd bits with the dealership, such as saying some options that were not fitted to this car, which I wished was standard in this car as a whole. So the first thing that the dealer said that this car has is electric folding mirrors, but nope, they're manual, and apparently they're an option throughout the range. And if we come to the back, this car does not come with a reversing camera, which I think for a car this long should be standard. And I was looking at the configurator that even during this video it's still an option. And I was talking to a Jaguar dealership and they said their dealership does not recommend retrofitting at all, because apparently it takes the car away from standard, even though it's just a case of replacing standard for another standard. And the other things I wish they kept as standard were actually inside the car. They said this car had fully electric memory seats at the dealership that I bought it from, but they don't. In order to raise the seat you have to pump it manually, and if you want to move the seat forward and back you have to pull on this lever and slide it forward and back. And if we look at the door cards, there's no memory buttons at all. In fact, the only bit that's electric about the seats is the backrest, as we're going to see. So while that bit is electric, one thing I don't like is the switch itself. It looks like a power window switch from a 1990s E36 Beamer. And if we come inside, this particular model has a smaller screen from 2017 with these very clunky buttons. Now it doesn't seem that much of a big deal in terms of appearance, but in terms of function this is nowhere near as good as the ones you'll find in the 2019 models with the massive screen and the more up-to-date tech behind this screen, etc. So that was pretty much the purchasing period when I got the car, and got a bit surprised by the stuff that they lied about. Just to make things clear, if you're wondering why I didn't have checked the car before I actually purchased it, I actually sent someone else to go collect it for me while I was doing a shift in Bath. So the next thing I experienced during my ownership was the recall in October 16th. Nope. The second thing I experienced during my ownership was a recall back on the 16th of October of 2019, when apparently the efficiency of the engine wasn't at its peak. So Jaguar Land Rover recalled this car and they gave me a Land Rover Discovery Sport for a couple of days, which I'll probably link the video to down in the description below. But fortunately that one was done quick and I got the car back immediately, and spoiler alert, my XF drives a lot better than the Discovery. Now the third thing I have done to this car was take it to the dealership in Melksham to have its screen updated about a couple of months after the recall. around December of 2019. Now it took them quite a while to update the screen, and in the meantime they gave me a Jaguar E-Pace courtesy car, which I can guarantee you drives a lot better than the Discovery. I'll probably put the link to that video down below as well. So that was pretty much what I did to this car back in 2019. So let's talk about the stuff I did this year, 2020 or 2020. So the first thing I did in 2020 was swap out the number plate, which originally was a 17 reg standard issue, to my own personalized number plate, which reads Mike Romeo 09 Mike Alpha Zulu. So what it's supposed to say is the Mike Romeo at the beginning resembles the word Mr. The 09 is meant to be an O followed by a G, meaning original, and then Mike Alpha Zulu at the end reads out Maz. Shortly after the number plate, I immediately took it to my local car sprayer and completely blacked the car out. Both the bumpers, the side vent and the wheels. And you can tell it was a while ago because stone chips have exposed the original paint once again around here. And now a lot of pre-blacked out XF owners may wonder, why did I leave the strip at the back silver? It's because I thought the black strip here does not go well with the indicator / reverse section here, and it also hides the fact that there's supposed to be a link between the two lights. But thus far I think blacking the car out was the biggest achievement I have done thus far. And while I have blacked out the cars, I even purchased some Union Jack valve stem covers, which have the Union Jack in grey, which I think completely transform the look of the wheels from the more basic faded grey ones. I mean, it's not much of a big deal from this distance, but once you look up close it does add quite some detail. So shortly after I blacked out the car and added in the valve stems, global lockdown of COVID-19 pretty much kicked in, which pretty much just left the car the way it was for the following few months, and nothing much has been added on ever since. But obviously just recently I've just swapped out the center console bezel for a wooden one, and I think that was the best trim you can buy for an XF, because personally I think an XF or many executive saloons without wood just don't look right, and this matte finish definitely ages very well, unlike the glossy ones you got back in the 90s like the W202, which just get hazy afterwards. But this matte finish definitely feels nice, and I recommend this simple DIY video to anyone who wants to swap out any black plastic you have. Obviously this is not the only part that needs to be changed when it comes to swapping out trims. I've also need to have the doors done and the dash hoop. Because this one is clipped at the back, I'll have to have the door card removed, so I'm not sure if I'm going to consider doing this, or if I would, I'll probably just let the dealership do that. And with the hoop, fortunately this one I can do by myself. It's the case of just removing this one here, this Jaguar badge, and apparently there's a Torx set behind it. Remove the Torx in the middle and then clip this one out and then clip the new one in. So whether or not I'll do that remains to be seen. So that's pretty much all the stuff that I've done with this car, as well as what I've experienced thus far. The warranty just went earlier this year, and so far I had no problems with this car. Pretty much been very dependable, surprisingly. And the stuff I plan to do with this car in the future are pretty much the obvious upgrades and retrofits, such as maybe adding in some luxury carpets. The luxury carpets The luxury carpets are something that I definitely recommend for many XF owners because they give you a sense of Rolls-Royce-ness by feeling it. And I also consider removing the plastic gear selector for a metallic one, as well as putting a leather top on it. Again, removing any shiny plastic probably could help you resell the car better, because wood and leather, they don't tend to age badly, and I think leather technically ages better when they feel nice and smooth. And before I forget, I'll also probably swap this one out. I've already purchased a new weather strip, but the dealership was a bit too busy to have it refitted, and I'll probably have it refitted next month. The reason being is, as you can see, there's a gap on here because it's missing its cap. Now it doesn't really do much harm, but it does trigger my OCD. So having this one swapped out will be the very next thing to happen to this car. So what long-term plans do I have with this car? I'm probably going to consider keeping it for another few more years, and after this I'll probably upgrade to a Mercedes E-Class convertible, or maybe a 2-litre F-Type. I have seen some future plans on the news on what Jaguar wants to do with their design, and apparently they're going to replace this and the XE with a much smaller saloon and a hatchback. Now the hatchback in mind they had a very outdated and old-fashioned styling. Now granted, that concept was from 2006, but if they do implement this style in the near future, I don't think I'll be getting another Jag and pretty much move to Mercedes. But if they stick to stuff like this, I'll probably stay. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed listening to my ownership experience with this car now that I've owned it for a year now. Subscribe if you are new, like the video if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.